Welcome back everyone. This is the time we start discussing your final phase for CAT 2020, the 3-month prep plan for CAT 2020. So exactly who are we targeting with this video, or the other way around, who is going to come and benefit the most from this video? I would list that under 3 categories. Category 1, someone who started his or her CAT preparation somewhere on or after May 2020, that is 3 months back. Category 2, people who started their CAT preparation much earlier than May 2020, but for whatever reasons, they became sincere only after May 2020. And category 3, people who started their CAT preparation before May 2020, people who have been trying to be very sincere throughout the phase, but still need a very clear plan for the last 3 months. Effectively, this means all CAT aspirants, or if I can put it this way, everybody who needs a plan with very clear benchmarks, this video is for you. Now, why am I so very confident about the last 3 months? I go back to 2006. I prepared for my CAT at that time. When did I start my CAT preparation? July 2006. When was CAT? November 2006. How much time did we have? Effectively 5 months. What did I prepare for? I think the last 3 months. Why? I was a working professional. I had to give time to everything. It was only around August or September that we realized we need to be more organized, because whatever my background was, and I had a decent academic background. So math, verbal reasoning, all of that was not very challenging from day one, but I knew with the kind of preparation that I was going through in June, July, August, I was very likely to become complacent. So that's why you become organized. You don't become organized because you are bad at things. Sometimes you become organized maybe because you are too good with things. You can do too many things at the same time, and you need to set your priorities right. That's what we are trying to do here. So in the last 3 months, first thing to do is to map your efforts. I said I'm going to give you a plan with very clear benchmarks. How do you map your effort? What exactly do you expect on CAT? I'm going to show you a table. Look at the number of questions I have given. For each question, I have listed out 4 different skill sets or 4 different things that help you to perform really well on those questions. And for each skill set, I have given it a particular ranking. How do I use the ranking? A ranking of 1 means that skill set is largely not going to be very important, or it is going to be a redundant thing in that particular question type. But a skill set level of 5 means that is crucial. Unless you improve in that area, your confidence, your performance in that particular question type is likely going to remain below your expectations. So this chart is for you. You can see what matters the most and point out. You realize that your reading speed and your question specific approach are going to be the game changers across all 4 types of questions, which means in the next 3 months, you have to, at any cost, improve on these 2 areas besides everything else. So I have charted out everything into 3 blocks of 1 month each. The first 30 days, regardless of how much time have you spent preparing for CAT, the first 30 days, I want you to now build on your accuracy. What do I mean by building accuracy? I simply mean go back, check your concepts. You have to stop making silly mistakes. You have to stop giving time to questions which you feel like you can do. You have to stop experimenting. That is the key here. You need that accuracy. Every EOM that you give, every other mock that you give anywhere in India, you have that same grouse at the end of the test, missing out on questions that you could attempt, wasting time on questions that you should not have attempted. How does that happen? I'll explain in 1 minute. But till then, the first 30 days, build your accuracy. The next 30 days, we will build your speed. And the last 30 days are going to be consistent, determined, unflinching practice. Doing the same thing over and over and over again. That is what I call consolidating your strategy. So the first 30 days, I said, let's build accuracy. For that, you need to identify where do you stand. We talked about reading issues. We have grammar and vocabulary issues? Do we have question specific approach problems? Do we have a problem with logical reasoning? Where exactly do you stand? There could be one of these, there could be more of these. How do you tackle these in the first 30 days? So the first thing that I had listed was reading issues, specifically issues with diverse reading. How do you overcome those issues with diverse reading? My answer is start focusing on sensitization. You might have had reasons to read diverse, you might have had reasons to not read diverse, there have been other things going on in your life, whatever it is, you have not focused enough on reading diverse. My answer is stop worrying about whether you will understand everything that you read, because that is not the eventual goal right now. The eventual goal is when you read something that is really abstract on a topic that you don't like or you've never seen in your life, you have to be comfortable. You might not be an expert. That's why I said sensitization. If you have never read a topic, there is a good chance when you read it for the first time in an RC and you have that pressure of answering questions also correctly, that is where your entire confidence goes for a toss. Read newspapers, read magazines, read for at least 90 minutes on a daily basis, read random stuff and read because you have to read. Read because if you next time come across something on this topic, that should not be your first time, specifically if such a topic comes up on CAT. And if that means you have to move out of your comfort zone, exactly that is what you will do. Trust me, moving out of your comfort zone when it comes to reading will not kill. Yes, you will get bored. Yes, you will feel frustrated. Whatever it is, as long as you are reading just for the sake of sensitization, do it for your sake, do it for my sake, do it for the sake of your cat. Second thing was issues with focused reading. How do those issues happen? I am not able to focus. I cannot read more than 1 minute or 2 minutes without losing my attention. All of that is pretty childish. You can totally focus on everything that you want to. You've played games, you've studied hard and you've given exams till now, you can totally focus. Focus is not a problem here. I'll tell you what is the problem here. The problem is lack of practice. When you're preparing for passages, you're only looking at passages, which is so very weird because that passage comes in with a lot of baggage. How do you improve your focused reading skills? My recommendation, read a minimum of 500 words. I would recommend 750 word write-ups. That's not the length of an RC on CAT. I want you to read 750 words at a time so that when you have to focus on 350 words or 400 words on the CAT, because you have survived 750 without getting distracted, you can definitely survive those 350 or 400 without getting distracted. Equally important, and this is something that I've said in the last 12 years, I've said it probably thousands of times. There is a dichotomy that should not happen on the CAT. You solve quant questions. Every question that you read, you start noting down information because you want to solve it. You go to verbal questions, you are totally lost. Your pen and paper go for a toss and you're trying to do everything mentally, which is really silly. You haven't reached that level where you can score a 100 percentile on CAT or a 100 percentile in verbal section. Stop doing things mentally. Whatever you read because you want focus. How does focus get disturbed when you are reading? You are reading, you're trying to understand, you're trying to relate things inside your head, and then most importantly, you're also trying to get a gist of the passage, half of which you have not read. That is where your brain starts giving up. That is where you start losing focus. And that is why when you are reading, everything that you understand, note down. Is it going to take you extra time? Whatever effort you make in 10 minutes, out of which only 50% of the time you could focus on the passage and the remaining 50% you were frustrated and distracted. Instead, take the noting approach with your current reading speed of around 80 to 100 words a minute. When you read 500 words and you finish it in 8 minutes with your notes, your confidence, your satisfaction from that passage is going to be probably 10 times the previous effort where you read 500 words with a lot of distractions, and at the end of those 500 words, I don't know how much you understood, you are absolutely tired. You might not do noting on the actual CAT. Your actual CAT does not happen till 90 days from now. What you do now prepares you for CAT, so do it. And what about reading speed, which was one of my 3 top issues with reading? My answer is, the less you dislike what you are reading, the less you get distracted while you are reading, the better will be your reading speed. Reading speed is just an outcome of these two skills. You cannot read quickly without losing essence unless you improve in these two areas: diverse reading and focused reading. Next part to improve: question specific approaches. Do you know the approach to each question? Rearranging jumbled sentences, odd man out, summary questions, RCs which have close to 10 different question types. Do you know the approach? How good are you with your elimination skills? That is what we are testing here. So maybe you know the approach to all of the questions. Wonderful. Do you practice them? Every question that you attempt, sectional tests, EOMs, other mock tests, whatever you're doing, do you practice the approach? Do you always follow the approach? Or do you take shortcuts? Similarly, after you take any sectional test or any full length test, and honestly, really, I don't know the quality of tests that you're taking. I can totally guarantee the quality of my tests because I am the one creating solutions and we are proofreading every solution so that it makes sense even to kids who come from a vernacular background or not with very extensive CAT preparation. Whatever tests you take, read the explanations. I hope the tests that you're taking, they will give you standard logic based explanations, not stupid explanations that go by discretion, not explanations that simply rush into. Hence option C is correct. There has to be an explanation. I said because we do that. I do that with every question that I design. I have to tell you not just why a particular answer choice is correct, but also why the other three are incorrect. That kind of an explanation is what you want in these 30 days to make sure that you have the clarity about the approach, which includes both about the approach and the elimination approach. And this comes from my personal experience. Way back in 2006 or 7 when I was giving the CAT or I was giving the GMAT, at that time also, whatever material I read, I was an Endeavour student in 2006, the explanations that we had at that time, I used the official guide for GMAT, the explanations that the official guide provides, everything was systematic. They always focused on telling us not just why a particular answer choice is correct, but why the others are incorrect. The point is, the more you invest into learning and improving your approach by reading these good systematic explanations, if you invest into this as much as you invest into solving questions or all the time and effort that you invest into worrying about your marks, the more you invest into this learning from explanations, the less you will have to worry about your marks. That brings me to the remaining two areas. I had written grammar and vocabulary have to be a staple. There is never a fixed target for either of them. They are a part of your daily preparation in these 90 days. You try giving up on either of them, it is going to backfire. You see what I've written here. They are like the vitamins without which you cannot survive, even if you cannot see those vitamins. 1. Second, logical reasoning. You will have rearranging jumbled sentences. You will have odd man out. In both of these question types, what does CAT focus on? It focuses on your ability to understand logical links. Do you know how to create logical links? Are you still driven by discretion? Are you still reading and solving questions which do not give a logical explanation, rather give what we call a narrative explanation just because whoever created that question apparently used the source logic? That should not happen. There should be a reason a sentence gets related with another sentence. And if you understand those reasons without getting into what the author wants to say, because that is not what CAT has been doing. CAT has been working on logic. That is what they want to build, a test that is more on reasoning than on ability. So you should know how to identify or how to link sentences logically. That's what you want to develop in these first 30 days. So now, reading, issues sorted, questions, approach clarified, logical reasoning, we worked on identifying links or how to relate sentences. Grammar and vocabulary, the work has been going on simultaneously. We are done with building the accuracy part. We enter the second phase, the next 30 days, where I had asked you to build your speed. Speed cannot precede accuracy. That is wrong, that is stupid, that does not get you beyond a 95 percentile on CAT. Accuracy has to precede speed. So, in these 30 days, how do we build your speed? Invest time into solving sectionals. Create half a sectional, create a complete sectional. Learn to sit by the time you finish this second phase of 30 days. Learn to sit for 60 minutes without getting distracted. So what would a verbal sectional look like? For me, a verbal sectional would be 5 passages at a stretch, or 20 questions of rearranging jumbled sentences, or 20 questions of summary, or 30 questions of odd man out. One of these 4 over a target of 60 minutes. That would be a sectional for me. 1. And 2, how do we approach? I'll give you 2 different approaches depending on the kind of test taker that you are. The first approach is strive for mass and build class. What does this mean? This means from the first day itself, you start with sectionals of 60 minutes each. Very evidently, in the first few days, your scores will fall. Your accuracy is going to go down because maybe this is the first time, or you haven't very frequently sat for 60 minutes at a stretch. You haven't solved so many questions at a stretch, but emotionally, you are not vulnerable. You understand that over a period of time, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, you will bounce back to the accuracy that you had at the end of the first 30-day period. That's what you want to do. You start with the same 60-minute sectional every day. Slowly and gradually, you come back to the accuracy, because with each sectional, after you finish the sectional, you give yourself half an hour to read the explanations, identify where did you go wrong. First approach. Second approach is gradually build speed. What do you do in this approach? You divide your entire 30-day period into 4 or 5 different phases. The first 5 days, you work with 20-minute sectionals, but I have shown you the targets on your screen. So if you take approach 1, obviously there are no targets. There are targets only for the last 5 or 7 or 10 days. If you take approach 2, you have a target to meet from day 1. You should be able to solve at least 80% of the section. You should be able to secure at least a 90% accuracy, because 80% of attempts with 90% accuracy will still put you only at a 65 or 66% of the total score, which is very close to a 99.9 percentile. And you want to replicate the same attempts and the same accuracy from this date till your actual CAT. So you start with 20-minute sectionals. After 5 days, you move to 30 minutes, then 40 minutes, then 50 minutes. In the last 10 days, you matured enough to handle an entire 60-minute sectional. The targets remain unchanged. I expect you to reach these targets because you have given yourself an entire 1 month building accuracy. And also, as I said earlier, after each sectional, you will spend 30 minutes analyzing and finding out where did you go wrong. So overall, there is a breakup of the total time, because there are some things that I called staple. You cannot give up on them just because you have entered this phase. So throughout the day, there is going to be some time dedicated to your reading, to your grammar and vocabulary, to your solving an entire sectional and analysis. I understand that 2.5 hours to verbal, 3 hours to verbal on a daily basis makes absolute sense, because you will need that much time for your quantitative ability also and your data interpretation section also. So 80% attempts, 90% accuracy. Now you enter the last lap of your marathon. Now you enter the last 30 days. And before you enter the last 30 days, there are some things that should be right in front of you. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Can you see a question and identify whether it belongs to a strength area or a weakness area? Can you resist traps? Those questions which seem pretty solvable, but if you look at your experience, you know that on an average, you get trapped by this question. You get into the lure of solving it, and by the time you are done with that question, you have probably messed up your entire section. And last but not the least, 2 more things. Are you still living with gray areas? Because these gray areas are going to become the traps first. And second, are there other problems in your life? See, whatever importance CAT holds or that MBA holds for your life, this last 1 month has to be that typical, what do people call it? Arjuna and the eye of the sparrow, or whatever word it was. You have to be focused. I want to believe that almost all of us have a lot of things happening in life simultaneously. And I'll restate this at the end of this video. Emotional vulnerability is the worst thing that you can do to your CAT preparation. If there are other things happening in your life, please find a way of disconnecting from them. The last 30 days, anything that can come in and disturb your focus, please avoid. You worked really, really, really hard to reach here. With that clarity about strengths and weaknesses and self-control and traps and life problems or determination, everything, from day one of the last 30-day phase, you have to pick a section-specific strategy. What do I mean by section-specific strategy? I mean your hunting skills. You know your strengths. You know your weaknesses. You know that whatever you are, there is something that you can locate and solve it comfortably before the other thing right in front of you. That's what I mean by hunting skills. Throughout the entire section, whatever you solve, a sectional or an EOM, you should be very clear about the questions that you want to hunt, identify and solve first. At least 50% of your section time should go to your strength areas. I will be glad if 100% of it goes to your strength areas, provided your strength areas don't make up less than 50% of the entire section. That will be slightly worrying. But otherwise, at least 50%, you should be clear inside your head that your best effort for each section goes into 50 minutes. Why do I say 50? I say 50 because that gives you that bandwidth, that flexibility of 10 minutes. If anything goes wrong and you have to go from 50 to 55 or 57, you know you are not going to run out of time. So for each section, when you take a 50-minute approach, and as I said, within 50 minutes, let's say you have solved everything that you could, anything that is left in that section are questions which you would not want to attempt because either you don't know how to solve them or you have a bad track record with those questions. Maybe you give those questions a half-hearted attempt and back out of them when you realize that this is as bad as all the other questions of this type in the past. Whatever it is, I would recommend, if you're done with 50 minutes and you're left with only the question types, if you're done with that 80 and 90, is what I said earlier, 80% of the attempts with 90% accuracy or 90% confidence, you worked so hard for CAT, you deserve those 10 minutes of breathing space. Just give up and relax. Unless your verbal section is the last section on your CAT, leave it. Breathe easy. Let the people around you have a sort of a panic attack. They are still struggling, trying to find out what to attempt and what not to attempt, and you are simply sitting there for the last 10 minutes wondering, I'm done. Let me get to the next section now. It might sound funny, but I hope you reach that level of confidence where you can actually do it. And what about the measurement for these last 30 days? As always, be very realistic. Before a mock, because you know your strengths and weaknesses, you should have a target. When you get into the mock, never try to overdo your target. Be realistic. It is absolutely okay to miss 2 questions which were easy, then to waste your time and answer incorrectly 2 questions which were difficult. For easy questions that you miss, you lose 3 points. When you attempt a question incorrectly, you get a -4. A -3 on a CAT is still better than a -4. With clear targets, it will also therefore become very easy for you to analyze each EOM. Look at where did you go wrong, how well did you implement your strategy, what are the areas of improvement. You will actually enjoy reading the explanations, and hopefully you would have reached that peaceful phase where, because you are attempting each test with a target and you analyze diligently after each test. I'll give you a very simple target. After every 3 days, you should be able to get one more correct in each section. Your first mock, somewhere around end of October, you get 21 correct in quantitative reasoning. Every 3 days, I want you to get one more correct. You go to 22 and 23. Let's not jump from 21 correct to 26 correct within 5 days. Let's reach 26 correct after 15 days. Take a very minimalistic target of one correct every 3 days. It will not give you panic attacks. It will not give you sleepless nights. In fact, if you are really adventurous, I will also say go face your fears. What is the worst that can happen to you on the CAT? You get a 0, you get a negative score, you're not prepared for it. When we used to prepare for CAT at Endeavor, in one of the mocks, one mandatory instruction from our mentors was attempt everything. We don't care whether you get all of them correct or incorrect. Go to the stage where you attempted all 100 questions. You will see your worst possible score maybe, and you will realize this is the worst that can happen. I have to stop worrying about what will happen if this thing goes wrong, that thing goes wrong. That is the thing with the fear. If you face it, you know how to overcome it. Equally important, whatever scores you have, do not predict your actual CAT score. No matter how much you feel within that you want to predict your score, don't. CAT is going to be just another EOM. Every EOM is a fresh challenge for you. I have always said, from the system that I come, CAT is just another Endeavor online mock for us. We are going to go in with the same mindset and with the same comfort, and we are going to absolutely nail it. Which is why I said earlier, if scores affect you, if you are emotionally vulnerable, if you look at each score and it brings you 1,000 thoughts about how if you don't perform well on the CAT, your future is going to go for a toss and maybe you will die a bachelor because nobody will marry you and all of those weird things that you can imagine, trust me, that is not how it works. You have to stop worrying about things and only focus on one test at a time. Get into that test, give it your best, come out and prepare for the next one. Don't get affected by scores because that never helps. In fact, if scores affect you even in the last 1 month, it very clearly means you haven't endeavored enough to achieve your CAT dream. And that's why I say one single failure cannot define your life unless you let it. So stay focused, keep analyzing, and I will see all of you again. Good luck.